So we're now
All right.
recording. Welcome to episode 10 of Talk It Out with Tahsha Renee. I am here with the amazing Becky Ogden. I love her. She's incredible, doing great things in the world. I will let her say at the end here what it is that she does and how you can actually contact her.
Super.
Yes. So if you guys don't know who I am, if you're watching this and are like, who the hell is Tahsha Renee? I am the founder of Sisterhood of Sacred Fire, and I'm also the leading expert along with Jacqueline Faith in our Women's Sacred Rage therapy work. We've been doing that for about 2 years now. If you're watching this in December of 2022, we do have an upcoming program that's happening for Women's Sacred Rage. It's a 4-week program starting January 9th. We also offer private sessions as well as one-on-one work with me. This is a breakthrough session that I'm doing with Becky. I do guarantee a breakthrough in all of these sessions. Normally an hour with me is $200. So one of these 20-minute sessions is only $50. So if you're looking for that as well, contact me. I also have a meetup group, an anger support meetup group that happens on Mondays. It's only $7 on meetup.com. If you're interested in that. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to set my timer. Not that we'll adhere to it exactly, but it's nice to just kind of have a focus. Oh my God, seriously. Here we go. I made this easier for myself the other day by putting it on my phone and then forget that it's on there and make it difficult for myself. Okay, starting now. All right, Becky, what is your question that we can help you work through today?
Okay, Sacred Rage Gal. Tell me give me some tips, how to keep my temper during some emotionally charged conversations that have to happen.
Okay. So I guess my first question is, have you done any Sacred Rage work beforehand? Like
No.
Meaning like in your life?
No.
No.
I mean,
okay.
other than what I know about it from interviewing you on my hot seat a while back, I know nothing about
it. Okay. So one of the ways that makes it easier, just throwing that out there, is to do some actual Sacred Rage work. And the reason for that is when you're getting into a heightened conversation that's going to be triggering, activating is the word I like to use, that's activating that anger body, and you haven't done that work to alchemize your anger to work for you instead of against you, what you're coming from is going to be a trauma response. So it's going to be a space of feeling and not being able to think while you're feeling, not be able to think before you act. So it's going to be a reaction instead of a response. Because you have all these emotions, anger is a secondary emotion, right? So as we all know, so you've got all these other emotions beneath there that actually need healing and need acknowledgement and need expression, and it hasn't gotten that. So the minute that anger is activated, because of the pain underneath. So whatever situation that is, it's actually touching on the pain, the shame, the pain, the blame, the guilt, whatever that is underneath that anger. And the anger is now, it works against you in this aspect. So what it's doing is it's keeping anything from getting to that place to feel that. So it's going to push everybody away. It's going to make you volatile. They're volatile. Have a volatile response, such as, your anger coming out in big bursts. I like to call it burning your face off with your fire coming out of your mouth. Or it's going to be a possible of a shutdown, toxic positivity. It could be spiritual bypassing. It could be all these other things that are, that just numb, basically, you just numb up. When you've done the Sacred Rage work, which is giving you a space to let all of this out in an environment where there's no judgment and you're held in this really beautiful, safe environment, what happens and what we've seen happen over and over again is, again, the alchemization process. So all of a sudden that shame and that scariness of not being able to let your anger out now becomes this like, oh my God, I'm accepted. So it's like a part of you that hasn't been accepted, right? It's a part of you that's been shut down. It's a part of you that's been silenced. And when you get to literally free your anger through your voice and take your power back through your voice of screaming and talking and expressing in this environment, what we notice happens is now there's all this space that is there. And so the next time you come upon a situation where you're again going to would have been a trauma response, that's not there anymore. So Do you still get angry? Yes. Are you still going to have some sort of an emotional reaction and feeling? Yes. We don't say that goes away. What we do say is that whatever you came in with, that level of anger, that level of pain that you came in with is not there anymore. So now what's happening is when that thing comes up that did before, you look at it and you're able to actually have a voice. So the different response is going to be, I need a moment to process what you're telling me. Wow, what you're telling me is really hurting my feelings. Wow, I'm really activated, triggered by what you're saying right now. And I'm trying to process that. Wow, we really need to talk further about this. It's like you get to actually put a voice to the pain that was underneath there. You get to actually have the ability to talk your way through instead of feeling and allowing yourself to feel the anger, right? So when you haven't done that work yet, my only suggestion is to try your hardest to remember this conversation and say, okay, I need to stop and breathe for a minute. And I need to think before I say something, because I need to really ask myself where this anger is coming from. And don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that just because that person said something that is activating doesn't mean it's something that you need to fix in yourself, right? This is kind of making it sound like it's you that has to fix something. So let's say a narcissist fucking says something to you and it's part of your patterns, your toxic patterns to be involved with narcissists, your opportunities of growth, whatever that is at this time, then it's really, again, being able to sit back and go, okay, I'm angry because my boundaries are being crossed. I'm angry and pissed off because this person is abusing me. I don't want to fucking be in this conversation because I'm being fucking abused. I know the direction this is going to go. So it's really is that whole like cliche bullshit about stop and count to 10. It really is in that aspect. If you haven't done the sacred rage work to be able to be coming from that space just naturally, because that's what happens after taking our programs, then you do need to somehow stop and breathe and ask yourself, where's my anger coming from? Is it coming from a space of trying to protect myself, or is it coming from a space of you're activating me and I need to figure out my own shit and process my own crap right now because it's a repeated pattern of an abuser or something that's happened to me that's actually not your fault, and I need to figure that out on my own. So did that make sense? I know that was a lot of information.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by what you do for sure. So yeah, I can you do the can you like rationalize yourself out of an emotional response like that? I mean, is it without just shutting down? Because what I end up doing is just like, oh, okay, I'm all done with this conversation right now. We're gonna have to come back to this later. It's like,
is that just when you're activated on any level, or is it like a really big situation? Like, you know, like, is it anything that just makes you somewhat angry, or is it something that's like really super personal that happens? Is it with everything or just certain things?
It's primarily with certain topics, but you know, I feel like my ability to cope with stuff, you know, if I feel like I'm being flooded, is non-existent anymore. You know, if it's just, you know, kind of like, oh, this is upsetting or whatever, no big deal. But if I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm just done, you know, I can't, I got to step away.
Okay. And then do you come back to the conversation like you say you're going to, or do you just leave it alone?
I mean, yeah, because this particular round of conversations is something that has to happen. There is no getting around this. And so, yes, I come back to it
Okay.
because particular person is worth coming back to. But if it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I would
Okay.
just avoid it altogether.
Okay. So I would say, honestly, in that situation, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're being activated. You know, you're going to say something that's going to fucking fuck everything up. You're not always supposed to be able to just talk through your anger. Like, that's not always the case. So for me, I feel like if you're doing it out of a space of like, I know myself and it's going to get ugly if I fucking keep having this conversation, for you to say, the thing is, I wouldn't make it, I would try my hardest not to make it like a day. It'd be like, I need an hour. I need an hour to sit with this. Unless it's something really ugly, like, I don't know, somebody's throwing like a death in your face, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like something that's just like so activating that you can't even function. But I would say, I need an hour. I need an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is you feel like you might need to calm down and fucking come back to it. If that person has the time and space to do that, of course. If they don't, then I guess you just do it when you can. But to let it go for too long, I feel is also making it harder on both parties.
Ooh,
Because now
interesting.
there's all these thoughts that are happening, all these emotions that are building on top of the things, and how you know you have to have it, and there's the anticipation, and there's all for on both people's sides. Whereas if it's like, okay, this is a I'm committing to working through this. I'm not just going to say I need to walk away just because I'm not even going to handle it at all. I'm going to say I need an hour, and I'm going to fucking work through the process of this, and we're going to have a conversation about it. Now, if the things keep happening over and over again, that's something else to look at. If there's not a resolution that's happening, you know, third party may need to be involved at that point. If that's not a case, then it might need to be an actual break from the relationship on some aspects. And because you may be, I don't know, possibly involved in a toxic pattern. You know, I don't know the situation completely, obviously, but there needs to be other things if it's just a continuous toxic pattern of just fight, talk all the time. Like it's not supposed to be like that. There needs to be some sort of progression, some sort of like, oh yeah, we worked through that. And then maybe they'll show up in some different way on like a lower level. So, but there's still some progress.
Right.
So yeah. So I think for you, it's about, I think you're doing the right thing. So I don't think there really is, unless of course you're in that situation and you're telling yourself that, you know, you're saying you don't want to deal with it because you just are just giving up, and not, you know, there's a difference between like, I know myself and I can't have this conversation because it's going to get fucking ugly. So whatever's happening right now is activating this part of me that wants to lash out and be shitty or shut down completely, where I'll just
It's the shutdown.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's the shutdown stuff.
Right. Okay.
It's like too much all at once. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't have anything to add to this conversation.
So I want to ask another question, since this seems to be a thing that's happening over and over again, or it does happen. This is how your patterns are with this person. Is this person just coming to you and like attacking you? Or are they coming to you and saying, hey, I have an issue we need to talk about?
Well, it's a bunch of stuff that we have tabled during a crisis that needed our attention. And now all the stuff that has been, kind of pushed to the side has to be dealt with.
Okay.
And it's a lot. And we don't agree right now on the best course of action for dealing with that stuff. And it's charged for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
I understand his perspective. I think he understands mine. We just don't agree.
Right. So, and is there a possibility of agreeing to disagree? Or no. Is there has to be a resolution?
There has to be a resolution.
Okay. So what is the possibility of involving a third party, a mediator of some sort?
That is something that we have talked about. It's just, finances as far as getting professional help goes for it.
Right.
So I was just hoping, just like in the meantime, I don't like the feeling of shutdown.
Yeah.
At all. It's unpredictable. I don't have a
off button.
Well, it's like I don't have a warning. I don't have a warning system that I have identified anyway, that I'm done until I'm just done.
Okay. So that to me is a trauma response. When the emotion, the thing is, there's something underneath there that's making that happen. That shutdown it's not just a trauma response, it's a survival mode technique that you have for some reason. And I'm getting that psychically, like that's like it's a big message that's coming through for you. I'm sure you know that. I'm sure you're feeling like, yeah, there's something obviously that's making me feel like it feels like deer in the headlights. It feels like shock. It feels like that's what they're showing me. It feels like this thing of like, I can't even function. I can't do it. That's the feeling I'm getting. So my suggestion to you is going to be, you're going to need to do, if it's not my program, it needs to be some sort of deep sacred rage work that needs to come out. You need to fucking be in a situation and an environment where you're safe and your body feels safe and your nervous system feels safe to actually let this shit up and out and to go.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then you'll be able to do that. And it might be more of a space of now the message I'm getting is what will be happening is you will start to feel, oh, I'm about to shut down. It'll start happening where you're like, oh, my body's about to shut down. Oh, that thing's happening where I'm about to shut down. Or there's some other space open now where there's now new information that's coming into your body in these situations. I also feel like there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in these situations, it's like the conversation starts and goes, and then it gets to a place where you shut down completely. Correct? I mean, that's normally how it happens when somebody shut down. That's a normal shutdown.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a space for you next time? I would say have a witness view and try to recognize when that's about to happen. Usually it's this baby version of you shutting down. It's this like almost like a breath gets held. Your body starts to tense up, possibly. It's kind of like when I was having panic attacks. I had to really realize that it was actually happening like the day before, I would think, or like, excuse me, like a week before I would go somewhere when I had agoraphobia. I would start thinking about being in the car and I would tense up. And I realized that these tensing up things would actually make me panic by the time I got in the car. And so what I had to start recognizing was every time I did that, I had to totally like go into a trance almost and just like completely relax all my muscles. And I had to like not hold that. So for you, the next time you start to get in one of these conversations, I feel like they're telling me and they're showing me that if you are to pay really close attention to when that first tense up starts to happen, that is your warning sign. And that is the place that you should be stopping the conversation. Or that is the place that you need to be saying something else, which is, hey, and I don't know how this person would do this for you, but say, hey, I'm wondering if you can hold space for me for just a moment. I feel like I'm about to shut all the way down again. And I don't want to do that because I feel like it's part of the reason why we can't get through to a resolution. So for you, it might be, can I have just like 10, 15 minutes to myself to try to work through this and try to breathe through this? And then we can come back and talk about it and try to figure out a different way. And would that person be open to allowing you to speak on your behalf, you yourself?
I mean, probably. I don't see why not.
Why not?
I don't see why not. So.
Okay. So there is something you can practice doing. That if you just get really witness view and see it as information, not necessarily a decision that needs to be made about yourself or your anger or your emotions, and see it as like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, my body is tensing up there. And so when you take that 10, 15 minutes by yourself, what I would be challenging you to do is to say, where's this coming from? I don't need to shut down. I have a voice. I can use my voice. If we feel unsafe, we will leave the conversation and kind of be the love. Give yourself the love that you didn't receive in those situations when you were shutting down as a child, or even shutting down just because you didn't know any other way of being. So now it's like you have to reparent yourself in these ways and be like, it's okay. We don't have to shut down. There's no need to do that anymore. We're safe. If we feel unsafe, we'll just leave the conversation again. So I would have this conversation before you get into, if you know you're sitting down to talk about the thing that needs to be talked about, to just say in the beginning, hey, I'm learning some things about myself. And I know I shut down in these conversations. And I'm just wondering if when that starts to happen, if you'll hold space for me to maybe take just 10, 15 minutes by myself to try to work through that so I can come back in and we can maybe get to a resolution faster. And who knows, maybe by you fucking doing that, the other person will be like, oh, where do I do that in the conversation? Where do I fucking, maybe that might happen. So you taking that 10, 15 minutes to hold space for yourself may, in that 15 minutes you're doing that, may make them start thinking more about themselves and what's going on with them and how they can maybe work towards finding a resolution, because that's really what you're trying to do. Besides just healing yourself, is like, you're trying to actually find a way out of this thing that keeps happening. In the sense of like the information you guys are trying to find a resolution on.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So you're taking some power back in that way too, right? Because when we especially in shutdown mode, means that at some point that trauma response comes from our power being taken from us, a feeling like we don't have a choice, a feeling just completely frozen and we don't even know what to do. So even just saying the words, can I have 15 minutes so I can figure it out? And you sitting with yourself is literally giving you this, like, it's like the ice of being frozen is melting, right? There's no reason for it. It's actually warming up. And you're taking some of that power back that was taken from you, or that you gave away simply out of survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and who knows, maybe out of that space of being able to do that, you yourself will come up with a different resolution that can actually work for everything, because now that anger is how you make your anger work for you. Now it's creativity. Now it's made space to actually do something. So who's to say you guys won't come up with some creative fucking way together now that wasn't even on the table before?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay. So how does that all, are you think you're capable of doing that?
Oh, well, I hope so.
Right. Well, I would love, if you want to, I would love to hear how that possibly went. If you want to message me and tell me how that went. Okay. And yeah, I would just love to know that. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I would love to know if that worked for you. Okay. But I feel like it will. I feel like it's just a lot of times we need to be giving ourselves more compassion with our anger and more compassion with our trauma responses. It's really about just being like, oh, I've been through a lot and this is coming up right now, and it's coming up to come out. It's not coming up to cause me more problems. It's coming up to get attention and get more love and leave me, So yeah, how can I do that? How can I give myself more love in this moment and give my anger and my pain more love in this moment so it can actually transmute into something else? Because as we know, energy doesn't fucking go away. It transmutes into something else. So if we don't give it a direction to do that, it's just going to keep causing problems until it becomes actual physical illness, and then we're screwed. Yeah. So that's a lot harder.
Yep, I hear you. Awesome.
So Becky, tell people what you do and how they can find you.
Okay, so what I do, I repurpose content for people that are putting out content online, mostly like coaches, course creators, podcasters, authors, stuff like that. I do, on the tail end of that, I do some quick and easy content creation as well. And I have hot seat. Well, as you know, I have hot seat style interviews on my personal page. They're really, really fun. And people can find me, and, I'm on Facebook. I'm really readily accessible there. And my website is contentwithease.com.
Contentwithease.com. And it's Becky Odgen. It's BECKYOGDEN. She's on my friends list. If you want to find her and you can't, you can message me. And you can find me at sisterhoodofsacredfire.com, or you can email me at the same name at Gmail. I'm also on Instagram under that, as well as a Facebook group. So you'll find us on some way. So. All right, Becky. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you so much for coming on and being vulnerable and letting me record it and all the things. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.